Excuse me. Both turned around. A woman stood there. Lisa. The crowd immediately recognized her. And then the whispers started. Captain Jeon's fiancé. Taehyung felt his heart stop. Lisa smiled politely. She shook Taehyung's hand. It's nice to meet you. Then she looked towards Jungkook. I need to speak with you. Taehyung stood there silently. The voices around him faded. The world felt distant. His chest hurt. Without another word, he stepped back, then turned away and walked off with a shattered heart. Namjoon sat quietly on a bench watching Taehyung train. Something felt wrong. Taehyung had been sparring with the dummy for hours. Every punch seemed harder than the last. Taehyung, are you okay? Namjoon finally asked. Taehyung forced a smile. I am fine. But the moment Namjoon left, the truth showed. His eyes were red and swollen from crying. His hands had started bleeding from striking the dummy repeatedly. Yet he didn't even notice the wound. His chest hurt far more than his hand ever could. Suddenly his knees gave out. Taehyung fell to the ground, clutching his chest as tears streamed down his face. For a few moments he just stayed there, broken, exhausted, trying to breathe. Eventually he wiped his tears, stood up and forced himself to walk back towards the camp. But before he reached his room, he noticed dozens of soldiers gathered together. Everyone looked shocked. What's going on? Taehyung asked. One soldier hesitated before answering. Captain Jeon has been imprisoned. Taehyung froze. Another soldier added quietly. They say your father had him arrested. He was beaten badly too. The world around Taehyung went silent. He couldn't hear anything else. Without another word, he turned and ran. Military rules didn't matter anymore. He ran all the way home. When he burst through the front door, his mother looked startled. And in the middle of the room stood his father. Is that what your power means to you? Taehyung shouted. Destroying people's lives whenever you want? His father remained completely calm. The blood on his clothes was evidence. It wasn't what you think, Taehyung argued. Before he could say any another word, slap. The force sent him crashing to the floor. His mother rushed forward, begging them to stop. But his father's anger only grew. Grabbing Taehyung by the collar, he pulled him up. If you are so concerned about him, perhaps you should join him in prison. Then he threw Taehyung back down and stormed out of the house. The room fell silent. Taehyung's mother immediately knelt beside him and wrapped her arms around him crying. Soon, Yoongi and Jenny joined them. As they sat together, his mother finally revealed the truth she had hidden for years. Your father has been hurting me since the day we got married. Everyone stared at her in shock. Tears filled Jenny's eyes. Then leave him, Mom, please. But she slowly shook her head. No, if I leave, all of you will suffer too. And for the rest of the night, the four of them sat together on the floor, holding one another, trying to find comfort in a home that had long forgotten peace. Taehyung knew he had broken the rules. Leaving the military camp during training days was strictly forbidden. So when two soldiers arrived and grabbed him by the arms, he didn't resist. They dragged him towards the prison cells, while other soldiers watched in silence. You will suffer the consequence of your actions, one guard said coldly. After changing into prison clothes, Taehyung was pushed into a cell. The guards scattered coarse grain of salt across the floor. Only then did Taehyung notice that someone else was already inside. A figure sat in the shadows, bruised, wounded, chained. Taehyung slowly looked up. His heart stopped. It was Captain Jeon Jungkook. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The distance between them felt greater than ever. The guards placed books on Taehyung's head and hand. Kneel on the salt. Don't move. Taehyung silently obeyed. Watching him kneel on the sharp grains, Jungkook's heart shattered. I'm sorry, Jungkook whispered, but Taehyung's expression remained cold. I don't want to hear it. Jungkook lowered his eyes. Taehyung continued, I trusted someone and they broke my heart. So don't give me another lie. The words hurt more than any wound. A heavy silence filled the cell. Then suddenly Jungkook moved. Despite his injuries and despite having no punishment, he gathered some salt for himself. He placed a book on his head, another on his hand, and slowly knelt behind Taehyung. The guards stared in confusion, but Jungkook didn't care. If Taehyung was suffering, he would suffer too. Hour after hour passed. Neither of them lowered their books. Neither of them moved. Finally, after nearly 2 hours, the guards returned. Enough. His punishment is over. But as they entered the cell, they saw Jungkook still kneeling beside him. One guard immediately lost his temper. Slap. Strike echoed through the room. Who told you to do this punishment? The guard shouted. Jungkook remained silent. Taehyung's eyes instantly filled with tears. For the first time that day, he looked directly at Jungkook, and seeing the mark on Jungkook's face, his heart hurt even more than the salt beneath his knees. But Jungkook was happy that at least Taehyung cared for him. The next morning, Taehyung was excused from military training by his father, but it wasn't out of kindness. His father wanted him to sit in court and watch Jungkook suffer. Taehyung sat silently in the courtroom, his heart heavy. He didn't want to be there. A few minutes later, 2 soldiers escorted Jungkook into the courtroom. The sight broke Taehyung's heart. Jungkook stood completely alone. On one side stood Taehyung's father, surrounded by supporters and 3 expensive attorneys. On the other side, Jungkook alone. No family, no attorney, no support. Soon the judge entered. Immediately, Taehyung's father and his attorneys exchanged shocked look. They had been expecting a different judge. The female judge took her seat and called the court to order. Attorneys, please step forward. The 3 attorneys representing Taehyung's father stood proudly. Then the judge looked at Jungkook. And where is your attorney? Jungkook lowered his gaze. The person assigned to represent me was killed. The entire courtroom fell silent. Confused murmurs spread through the crowd. Before anyone could react, a chair suddenly scraped against the floor. Taehyung stood up. I will represent Captain Jeon. Gasps filled the courtroom. One of the attorneys immediately objected. He has no experience. Taehyung turned towards him. Maybe I don't have courtroom experience, but I studied law. The room went silent. Then Taehyung walked across the courtroom and stood beside Jungkook. For the first time that day, Jungkook looked hopeful. The clerk began reading the charges. Captain Jeon is accused of assault. Bloodstains found on his clothing are being presented as evidence. One attorney nodded confidently. The blood on his clothes proves his guilt. Objection, Your Honor. Every head turned towards Taehyung. The blood on Captain Jeon's clothing came from a previous incident. He took a deep breath. During the carnival, Captain Jeon helped deliver a baby when no midwife was available. The blood belonged to the childbirth. The courtroom erupted into whispers. The judge raised an eyebrow. And where is the evidence? Taehyung looked towards the crowd. I won't force anyone to testify, but if humanity still exists, the truth will come forward on its own. For several moments, nobody moved. Then a young woman slowly stepped forward. Tears filled her eyes. It's true. Captain Jeon helped deliver my baby. The attorneys immediately protested. She is lying. That's fabricated evidence. But Taehyung refused to back down. Captain Jeon was arrested before a proper investigation was even conducted. The judge's expression changed. The courtroom became quiet once again. After a lengthy discussion with the prosecutors, the judge prepared to announce the verdict. Meanwhile, Taehyung's hands were trembling. This was his first case, his first hearing, his first time standing in court. Suddenly, he felt someone gently hold his hand. It was Jungkook. It will be okay, Jungkook whispered. You did your best. Taehyung looked at him and managed a small smile. Finally, the judge stood. The court has reached a decision. Everyone held their breath. Captain Jeon is guilty. Taehyung immediately shot to his feet. What? His father and the attorneys began smiling and smirking. Then the judge blinked. Oh, she looked back at the papers. I misread the document. The entire courtroom froze. Captain Jeon is not guilty. For a second, nobody moved. Then relief flooded through Taehyung. Without thinking, he threw his arms around Jungkook. Courtroom erupted into noise. Meanwhile, Taehyung's father and his attorneys stormed out in anger. Later, outside the courthouse, Taehyung and Jungkook stood together in evening sunlight. Thank you, Jungkook said softly. You saved me. Taehyung smiled for the first time in days. But then Jungkook's expression became serious. We still need to talk. Both of them knew exactly what he meant. The pain between them still hadn't healed. Taehyung felt tears threatening to return. Unable to face a conversation, he turned and began walking away. Behind him, Jung called out one last time. I will be waiting at my office tonight. I hope you will come. But Taehyung kept walking, not because he didn't care, but because he cared too much. Hours had passed since the trial ended. Inside his office, Jungkook sat alone. At first, he tried keeping himself busy. He reviewed reports, signed documents, and organized paperwork. But every few minutes, his eyes drifted towards the door. Taehyung never came. Outside the military camp, Taehyung stood guard at the main gate alongside another soldier. The evening slowly turned into night. Then suddenly a horse carriage stopped at the entrance. Taehyung immediately straightened his posture. Two people stepped down. One of them was Lisa, the other was her escort. They both greeted Taehyung politely and he returned the greeting. Captain Jeon is in his office, Taehyung said. Lisa chuckled. I'm not here for Captain Jeon. Taehyung looked confused. For me? Lisa nodded. After arranging for the escort to temporarily take over Taehyung's duty, the two of them walked towards a quiet park inside the camp. When they reached a large tree, they sat on a nearby bench. Taehyung finally asked, Why did you want to talk to me? Aren't you Mrs. Jungkook? Lisa suddenly burst into laughter. Taehyung became even more confused. Then her smile softened. Taehyung, I know everything. His heart skipped a beat. Everything between you and Jungkook. Taehyung's eyes widened. Lisa continued gently. The engagement between me and Jungkook is fake. For a moment, Taehyung couldn't process what he had heard. What? It was for a purpose that I can't reveal right now, Lisa explained. But I trust you because Jungkook trusts you. The words hit him harder than anything else. His eyes immediately filled with tears. Months of pain, months of misunderstanding, months of heartbreak, all began to crack apart. Lisa smiled warmly. You don't need to worry. Captain Jeon loves you very much. What we had was never real. Tears rolled down Taehyung's cheeks. For the first time in a long while, there weren't tears of sadness. Lisa stood up and offered her hand. I hope everything works out between you two, and please get back on track with Jungkook. Taehyung shook her hand, unable to speak through his emotions. Soon Lisa left the camp. Meanwhile, Taehyung returned to the position at the gate, but now every minute felt like an hour. He kept glancing towards the clock, impatiently waiting for his shift to end. Inside the office, however, things were different. It was already close to midnight. The candles had nearly burned out, and still Jungkook sat there alone. The untouched cup of tea beside him had long gone cold. Slowly, tears began falling down his face. He looked towards the door one last time. Nobody came. Jungkook lowered his head. Maybe this was a punishment I deserve. He should have told Taehyung the truth from the beginning. Hours of waiting had exhausted Jungkook. The candles were nearly burned out. Then suddenly, bam! The office door burst open. Jungkook immediately stood up. Taehyung? Before he could finish, Taehyung rushed across the room and wrapped his arms around him. Tears were already streaming down his face. I am sorry, Taehyung whispered. So sorry. Unable to hold back his emotions any longer, Taehyung cupped Jungkook's face and kissed him. Jungkook froze for a moment before returning the kiss. Months of pain, longing, and misunderstanding seemed to melt away. When they finally pulled apart, both were crying. Taehyung buried his face against Jungkook's shoulder. I thought I lost you. Jungkook held him tightly. You never lost me. Taehyung looked up at him again, tears still shining in his eyes. I should have trusted you. Jungkook gently wiped away his tears and pressed a kiss to his forehead. It's okay, you are here now. The two stayed in each other's arms for a long time, unwilling to let go, and kissing for hours. Then Taehyung suddenly smacked Jungkook's arm. Jungkook blinked. Ouch! That's what making me suffer. Another smack. Jungkook laughed. You are getting very bold these days. Taehyung smacked him again, making both of them laugh. The heavy sadness that had haunted them for months later began to disappear as they were kissing for again and again. Later, while sitting together in the office, Jungkook's expression became serious. There's something I need to tell you. Taehyung, listen carefully. I am going to marry Lisa soon. Taehyung's eyes widened. Before he could panic, Jungkook squeezed his hand. It's not real. It's a part of a plan. And after that, I will be leaving for America for a while. The happiness on Taehyung's face faded. Jungkook gently held his hand. I will come back, I promise. Just wait for me. Taehyung smiled sadly. My heart already belongs to you. Jungkook pulled him into another tight embrace. And for the rest of the night, neither of them wanted to let go. And they even forgot how many times they were kissing each other. The next training exercise took place deep inside the forest. All the soldiers stood in formation while Captain Jeon inspected everyone. Taehyung's eyes briefly met Jungkook's, but Jungkook showed no reaction at all. No smile, no special treatment. For some reason, Taehyung felt disappointed. Soon the soldiers were divided into pairs. As expected, Taehyung and Bogum were assigned together. Each pair was given a note containing their task. Taehyung unfolded theirs. Find the deer and eliminate it with a single shot. That's easy, Bogum said confidently. With rifles in hand, they entered the forest. 10 minutes later, Bogum was still searching enthusiastically while Taehyung looked exhausted. I need a break, Taehyung groaned. My legs are dying. Suddenly, aha! Taehyung jumped behind Bogum. Bogum nearly dropped his rifle. What happened? A hissing sound answered his question. 3 black snakes were coiled nearby. Taehyung's face instantly turned pale. Before Bogum could stop him, Taehyung turned and ran. Taehyung, don't run! Don't make noise! But Taehyung was already gone. Fear quickly turned into tears as he sprinted through the forest. Bogum chased after him. Unfortunately, Taehyung didn't stop until he crossed a small river. By the time Bogum caught up, he was completely out of breath. Taehyung, stop! Panting heavily, Bogum's face suddenly became stiff. Very stiff. Taehyung blinked. What's wrong? Bogum didn't answer. Slowly he looked down, then Taehyung looked down too. Bogum's foot was resting on a landmine. For several seconds nobody spoke. Then Taehyung burst out laughing. The situation was terrifying, but Bogum's expression was so shocked that Taehyung couldn't stop laughing. This is not funny, Bogum shouted. Soon, other soldiers arrived and carefully helped Bogum escape the situation safely. Unfortunately, the mission was completely a failure, no deer, too much noise, and a near landmine disaster. The trainers were furious. That evening, both of them were punished again. Inside the cell, grains of salt were scattered across the floor. Neil, Taehyung's heart sank. His previous wounds had barely healed. Now he had to endure the same punishment again. Within minutes, pain spread through the knees. Bogum noticed immediately. Without saying another word, he quietly removed a handkerchief from his pocket. He placed it beneath the salt where Taehyung was kneeling and carefully covered it so God wouldn't notice. Then he whispered, "Kneel here." Taehyung shifted slightly. The difference was immediate. The pain became much more bearable. A small smile appeared on his face. Thank you. Bogum simply nodded. But deep inside his heart, there were so many things he wished he could say. Thank you for making me smile. Thank you for entering my life. Yet he remained silent. Because he already knew the truth. Taehyung's heart belonged to someone else. And no matter how much it hurt, Bogum respected that. Few days later, a holiday finally arrived. For the first time in weeks, Taehyung was home. The market was crowded with people and he walked beside his mother while she brought ingredients for home. His mother stopped at the seafood stall to look at crabs. Meanwhile, Taehyung remembered something he wanted to buy. I will be back in a minute, Mom. After purchasing what he needed, he made his way back through the busy market. That's when he noticed his mother talking to someone. Only the person's back was visible, but even from behind, the figure looked very similar. Taehyung slowed his step. The man turned around. It was Captain Jeon. The moment their eyes met, neither of them could stop smiling. Taehyung felt his heart immediately become lighter. His mother looked between the two of them and smiled knowingly. Captain Jeon is glowing these days. Jungkook nearly choked. I think he's in love with someone. Taehyung instantly looked away, his cheeks turning red. Jungkook was doing much better. A few minutes later, they continued shopping. We still need potatoes, Taehyung's mother said. The usual shop is closed. Taehyung pointed towards another store. What about that one? When they arrived, they were surprised once again. The vendor was none other than Bogum. Bogum? Everyone laughed. Soon the three of them were chatting comfortably. Taehyung's mother looked impressed. You are very hardworking. Even on your holiday, you are helping your family. Bogum smiled shyly. It's the least I can do. After a while, Taehyung's mother excused herself to buy apples nearby. As soon as she left, Taehyung looked at Bogum. You really are amazing. Bogum blinked. You work so hard for your family and still manage monetary trade. I respect that. For a moment, Bogum didn't know what to say. Hearing those words from Taehyung meant more than he would ever admit. Later that afternoon, Taehyung and his mother began heading home. The road was peaceful. Suddenly, his mother glanced at him. Taehyung, are you in love? Taehyung nearly stumbled. A nervous laugh escaped him. What kind of question is that? His mother smiled warmly. Then she gently took his hand. Taehyung looked at her in surprise. Listen to me carefully. No matter who you love, no matter what gender they are, I will always support you. Taehyung froze. Tears immediately filled his eyes. Before he could say anything, his mother leaned forward and kissed his forehead. My son deserves to be happy. At that moment, Taehyung felt years of fear disappear, and for the first time he truly believed that maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. That night, Taehyung lay awake in his bed. The room was dark, silent, but his mind refused to rest. Every time he closed his eyes, he remembered Jungkook's wedding. The smile Jungkook had forced, the way Taehyung had stood there pretending to be okay. Tears rolled down his cheeks as he stared at the ceiling. No matter how much he tried, he couldn't stop thinking about him. The next morning, all the soldiers gathered at the training ground. Everyone stood in formation waiting for an announcement. The moment the trainer arrived, Taehyung already knew what it was about. His heart sank. A few months later, Jungkook stepped forward. The camp fell silent. He was there to give his farewell speech before leaving for America. Taehyung couldn't even look at him. His eyes remained fixed on the ground. Tears quietly slipped down his face while Jungkook spoke. He didn't remember a single word of the speech. The only thing he could think about was losing him again. That evening, Taehyung threw himself into the martial art training. Punch after punch, kick after kick, hours after hour, until J-Hope finally walked over. Taehyung, no response. Taehyung stopped. Reluctantly, Taehyung lowered his fist. A few moments later, the two sat on a bench together. J-Hope studied him carefully. Something's wrong. Taehyung looked down. At first, he stayed silent. Then suddenly, tears began falling. J-Hope's expression immediately softened. Taehyung quickly forced a smile. I am okay. The fake smile only made J-Hope more worried. After a few moments, Taehyung stood up. I will be back in a few minutes. Without waiting for an answer, he walked away. Further and further until nobody could see him. Finally, he stopped behind an old wall, hidden from everyone, and there he broke down. Tears poured from his eyes as memories of Jungkook flooded his mind. He covered his face and cried, completely alone. Or so he thought. Suddenly, two hands grabbed him and pulled him backwards into a dark alley. Taehyung gasped and shook. Before he could react, he looked up. His breath caught. Jungkook. It was Jungkook. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Seeing him again only made Taehyung's heart ache even more. Slowly, Taehyung reached up and cupped Jungkook's face. His fingers trembled. Then he froze. Jungkook's cheeks were wet. He was crying too, and somehow that hurt even more than being apart. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The alley was silent except for their shaky breaths. Tears continued falling from both their eyes. Taehyung cupped Jungkook's face. Before neither of them could say another word, Taehyung pulled him into a kiss. Months of pain, longing, misunderstandings and waiting seemed to disappear in that moment. Jungkook immediately kissed him back. Neither wanted to let go. They stood there holding each other tightly, tears mixing with tears as they kept finding comfort in each other's presence. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. Jungkook rested his forehead against Taehyung's. I will come back, no matter what. I will return safely. And when I do, a small smile appeared through his tears. I will marry you. Taehyung broke into tears again. Jungkook gently kissed his forehead. I promise. Then Jungkook explained everything. I wasn't avoiding you. Lisa's father had spies watching me. If they had seen us together, they would use it against me. Taehyung finally understood. All those lonely days suddenly made sense. Jungkook then took a small necklace from his pocket. Attached to it was a tiny charm shaped like a hand with 3 fingers raised. Carefully, he fastened it around Taehyung's neck. What does it mean? Taehyung asked. Jungkook smiled and raised 3 fingers. It means, I love you. Taehyung's eyes filled with tears again. The two hugged each other tightly, neither wanting the moment to end. Finally, Jungkook gently kissed Taehyung's cheek. Wait for me, I will, Taehyung whispered. Suddenly, Jungkook stepped back. Then he turned and disappeared into darkness. Taehyung stood there alone beneath the moonlight. Slowly, he touched the pendant hanging around his neck. A smile appeared through his tear. Holding it close to his heart, he kissed the pendant softly and looked up at the night sky, waiting for the day Jungkook would finally return. December had arrived. The cold winter air had settled over the military camp. Taehyung slowly opened his eyes as the morning bell rang. For a few moments, he simply stared at the ceiling. Winter, the season Jungkook loved. A small smile appeared on his face as he wondered what Jungkook might be doing in America. Is he warm enough? Did he remember to wear a scarf? The thoughts made him laugh softly to himself. After getting ready, Taehyung wrapped the scarf around his neck and stepped into the hallway. A cold air immediately greeted him. Instinctively, his hand moved towards the pendant hanging around his neck. A tiny shaped a charm, the symbol Jungkook had given him. Remembering that night brought a smile to his face. Suddenly, Taehyung, he flinched and turned around. Standing behind him was Bogum. You scared me, Bogum chuckled. Then his expression softened. I actually came to give you something. Taehyung looked confused. Bogum held out a medium-sized box. This was given to me by Captain Jeon before he left. The moment Taehyung heard Jungkook's name, his eyes widened. For me? Bogum nodded. He asked me to wait until December before giving it to you. Without another word, Taehyung took the box, then immediately ran past the barracks, past the training ground, straight towards the large tree, the same tree where he and Jungkook had shared countless conversations. the same tree where some of the happiest memories lived. Breathing heavily, Taehyung finally sat beneath it. The wind gently moved through the branches above. For a moment he simply stared at the box resting in his lap. His hand trembled. Slowly he untied the ribbon carefully, almost afraid of what he might find inside. The ribbon fell away. Then he lifted the lid. His breath caught. Inside were letters. Carefully folded letters, all written in Jungkook's handwriting. For a moment Taehyung couldn't move. His eyes immediately filled with tears. Even from thousands of miles away, Jungkook had somehow found a way to stay by his side. With trembling fingers, Taehyung reached for the first letter. Dear Taehyung, everything that's happening today was making my senses crazy, but I am glad that I am able to handle it. Lisa and I decided to make the wedding earlier as planned, since everything was quite getting out of hand. I thought it would be easy, but now that I have you, I don't think it will be as easy as I thought. Her father was keeping an eye on me, trying to make sure that I am not cheating or doing something against their family. His guards weren't quite obvious, but I know that they are around the place watching me. It's ever harder because I am longing for you. I miss you so much. Not even the words so much could explain how much I do. I see you every day. I look at you and watch you from afar because even if I hate it, that's all I can do for now. You don't know how much I wanted to hold you tight in my arms. You don't know how much I wanted to see you smiling, that your eyes would suddenly hold stars and galaxies. You don't know how much I wanted to shower your kisses every time I see you. You don't know how much I wanted to tell everyone our love for each other. I wanted to shout it out loud, but I know that it's not yet the right time for that. And it pains my chest knowing that I can't do anything of the above. But it pains me knowing that I am hurting you, Tae. I'm sorry, Han. If only I did not want justice. If only my brother was still alive. If only people was a lot more kinder, then I wouldn't have the need to do all of this and leave you alone in Korea. My elder brother died when I was just about to enter in a military camp. He was killed without any reasonable explanation. And I am sorry, but I know that your father had something to do with it. I was so furious to the point that even at a young age, I strived hard to become a high official and punish everyone who was involved in his death. I was blinded by anger to the point that I wanted revenge, and revenge was a lot different than justice. I investigated your father secretly, and up to now he is still not suspecting anything, but I found out things that I shouldn't do. Your father is planning something against South Korea, and he is the side of Americans. He is trying to sell South Korea to American in return of becoming a president. America is trying to enslave Korea, and your father was too dumb to do it for power. I know you hate your father too, and I am not going to blame you. And as to Lisa, for her fiancé died because he fought for justice, and Lisa wanted justice for him. Lisa's father was also involved in his death, and she knew. He was killed in America, and all the evidence were there too. That's why we faked our marriage so that we can make our honeymoon as an excuse to go to America. Don't worry, we did not kiss. The marriage is fake, and so is the kiss. My lips are only for you. And that aside, we are here to find out some more information about the Americans' plans in Korea. I will be back, Han. I promise. Please don't worry about me and take care of yourself. I know that once you read this, I am in America already. If you miss me, just look at the necklace I gave you. And remember, I love you. From Jungkook. The winter wind quietly rustled the leaves above him. Taehyung sat beneath the tree, the letters resting in his lap. The last letters trembled in his hand. Every word Jungkook had written felt as though he were sitting beside him once again. By the time he finished reading, tears were already streaming down his face. He carefully pressed the letters against his chest, trying to hold on to the feelings, trying to hold on to him. A painful realization suddenly hit him. The day Jungkook left, the night at the alley, the promise, the tears, the goodbye. Through all of it, Taehyung had never actually said it. He had never told Jungkook those 3 words. His shoulders shook as he cried harder. I love you too. The words finally escaped his lips. But Jungkook wasn't there to hear them. I love you so much. Taehyung lowered his head and cried into the letters. He remembered every smile, every argument. Slowly he touched the pendant around his neck. The tiny hand-shaped charm, the symbol Jungkook had given him. I should have told you, his voice cracked. Yet Taehyung couldn't stop reading certain lines over and over again. The sun slowly began to set behind the camp, but Taehyung remained beneath the tree. I love you, Jungkook. And somewhere deep inside, he hoped that no matter how far Jungkook was, somehow he would still feel it and he will be staying safe.